Hey, this is Charlie here, trying to do a really bootleg, rough version of a video on live stream. So let's say you have your live stream. You have a computer and you have an interface off to the side. Now, the first thing I would do when I come in is I'd come down here to Logic on Sunday morning. I would open that. I'd go to Open Recent, and I would look for my live stream template. Okay, so let's just say I go to whatever my live stream template is. I open that up and it says, do you want to close the previous one? You say yes, you want to close it. Do you want to save it? No, I don't need to save the current version because I'm about to reopen it again. And you see here it is. Now normally this would have all of my stuff coming from the mixing board. And I'll show you that this is how it works. If I look for the M32 mixer, sorry about this, I tried to do the screen record, but you couldn't hear me. So this is the M32, which is the mixing board that we have. Now, if I come down here and I look at the back of it, you'll see as I zoom in here, there's a USB output right there. I connect this USB output with one cable and I connect it to a, let me show you this, a Focusrite 2i2. And they're like super cheap. So basically this is what we have at church. And that's my dog, not my dog. So this is the interface. Now, if you look at the back of the interface, which looks, if I can find it, it looks like, let's see, where's the back? Give me the back, someone please. It looks like this. So this is the back. Well, we're not gonna use the microphone input here or here. We're gonna connect this USB to the Macintosh computer that we have. And then we're gonna take these two, which is the output of the interface. So the Behringer connects through that little cable, that USB cable, into the Mac, and then we also connect this interface into the Mac. And basically, at that point, it sends 32 channels of audio. Whatever's going into the mixing board, it sends it into the computer. Now, we use this to control what leaves the computer. This is your volume for your headphones, which you are mixing live in the room right here. This is the volume going out of those two outputs on the back here, going to the live stream camera, okay? Or to the Blackmagic, or to the whatever box, the, Castcom, or, Xbox, whatever, your Boxcast, whatever is receiving the inputs from the camera, from ProPresenter, from video, from whatever else you want to have on camera. It's receiving that cast box is receiving all those signals. This is sending all 32 inputs of the mixing board by way of logic to that streaming box. That's what sends your live stream. So I need to explain a little bit here. What I normally do is I would come in here and I would turn off the metronome like this, and I would just record Thursday's rehearsal. So you can see, I think I still have a mic in there, but yeah. So I'm talking. There's my finger snap being recorded by the microphone here on the computer. In this case, it's getting all of its inputs from the mixing board. The nice thing is the mixing board only has one control for you, and that is the gain stage. So the first thing I would do is I would set up my mix, and this is the template that I already built. Kick drum, snare drum, let me back up here. Kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, tom one, all the way down to electric guitar left and right, all the way down to pastor's mic, announcement mic number 2, and whatever else you want. Video feed, vocal mics, all that stuff. So if we hit this this right here, now we're able to receive inputs recording, okay? Now, if we hit this here, hang on 1 second. This eye here, when it turns orange, it's telling us it's allowing what's called input monitoring, which means in a mix window, if I go to window and I go to open mixer, this is what I like to see when I'm mixing a live stream. Basically, these are the faders that I'm using. Now, once I hit record, I can't really move these faders. So I only record the rehearsal on Thursday so I can build a mix. And then I go through here and I say, okay, I want to have an EQ on one thing, and I'll make my EQ adjustments on that, and that's all fun and, fine and dandy. Then I'll come through and I'll do, I always add a gain. And that means I can control how much is coming into Logic, because remember, the gain stage is controlled into Logic by your X32 mixer. So I have this just in case I need to increase a little bit more volume. And then you can put in your effects, you can add noise gates, you can add delays, reverbs, all that stuff. And then if you add a delay, you can even control the delay, like with a tap tempo here, like this. And but I build all of that template into it. So these are all called plugins. They all come over here and they feed the stereo left and right output. Now, if I'm recording something, I'll see it here, right there in the output as it's playing. And that's what is sending the volume. If this is like super hot, you'll get these overload things right here. And this will go from green to yellow to red. And then it just peaked out right there, and you just hit that to reset it. So I build this template in. And then all you have to do when the band starts is you can grab a whole section of these here. Just grab a whole section of mics all the way up to video and computer. And you can say, okay, the band comes in, the band's muted right now. Now I'm gonna unmute the band. Now everything's unmuted all at one time because I have all these highlighted at one time. Then I'm gonna come over here. When the band's done playing, I'm gonna highlight the band again, and I'm going to mute the band. Now they're all muted. Now I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna grab my announcement microphone. And I'm going to, these probably would stay muted unless you want to hear your pastor going to the bathroom and drinking coffee. And if his mic is on, that's going to be on your live stream. So you would unmute the announcement mic. And then when the announcements are done, you unmute the announcement mic and you mute the announcement mic and you unmute the pastor's mic. And then you can turn this up. You can turn, just like you would on a mixer, you can turn this fader up and down. Now, all of these things here, the plugins, the panning, all that stuff is going to be preset. And I would save it in a signal chain here where I would build what the best sound that the pastor has through his microphone. And I would save this channel strip as pastor mic. Okay. Now, all that's done for you. I do that. So Sunday morning, all you have to do is come in and basically put this thing into record mode. So you put every single channel into record mode. I can only do one at a time right now, but you would have all of them in record mode. And then you would have all of them in input monitoring mode as well. And you would do that so that you could hear everything playing back through your plugins. Without input monitoring, you're not going to be able to hear all these plugins and all this stuff. So once you have that, then you just sit back and you're babysitting really the pastor's mic, the announcement mic, the video feed. If you have a video feed, I don't know where there's video right there and computer right there. So maybe the canned music. Just make sure you mute that canned music before you go live to Facebook, because they will block you and shut your stream down. And YouTube probably will do the same thing. So we have to have original music or royalty-free music to play that. Now, currently at Quest, we don't have video and computer coming into the computer because it comes in through an auxiliary input, and auxiliaries don't transfer over to Logic in USB. So we have a snake that runs from the board all the way down to the stage. And what we're going to do over the next 2 weeks is put the video computer and the Spotify computer into that snake, because when you use an M32 mixing board, let me just pull that back up again, M32. When you pull up the M32 mixing board, you have 1 through 8, 9 through 16, then you hit this button over here and you have 17 through 24, and then 25 through 32. And these all leave the mixing console through this USB, I don't know if you can see that, through this USB port right here. If you're using these auxiliaries, which are over here, you're not going to be able to transfer those to the computer. Now, if you're not coming out of here in USB, this applies to Compass Church. If you're not coming out of the board through USB, or you're sending something to something else that is externally, you have to set up an I/O, and that means you would have to know how Logic is wired in, or how Logic is getting its signals. We keep it really simple because we want anybody to be able to come and babysit the live stream. So all you're doing is coming in and building your mix based on your recording on Thursday. Now, let's say it's Sunday morning, you come in and there's a whole bunch of tracks here. Just highlight them all, hit delete, all the tracks go away. Now, all you have to do is hit record enable for this track, and this one, and this one, and this one, and input monitoring, and that is it. You just sit back and you listen to your mix through your headphones, and you make your adjustments based on how the set sounds in your ears. This is why it's important to be away or isolated from the band, because sometimes it bleeds through your headphones and it's hard to tell what you're hearing, if you're hearing the bass through the room or through the headphones. But I've built a pretty solid template. Now, the nice thing is we might also have a crowd mic here and a crowd mic here. You want to make sure you grab those two microphones at the end of service when there's ministry time, and you want to pull those back down. Why? Because you don't want somebody near a crowd mic basically praying and confessing or whatever, and it goes out to the World Wide Web. So I would say mute those two. But during the message, maybe everything else that you have here is, down, and you don't really need to do that, pull them down, if you can just mute them. And so you might have like the pastor's mic all the way up here. You might have the pastor's mic all the way up, getting a good level, and then you might take these two crowd mics and push these all the way up. And so now when he cracks a joke, or people applaud, or even during worship, you can push those up. They are behind the PA system, so they shouldn't be picking up anything but the room. And that gives you that congregational singing, and it gives you the laughter and the applause and stuff like that. The goal of this is to make sure people feel like they are in the room with you, and that's what those two crowd mics are. Now, on the actual physical mixing board, if we come back to that Behringer, the crowd mics that we have are on 17 and 18. So you'd hit that button there to switch over to 17 through 32, and then they're there. These faders are always going to be down. Now, the faders on the mixing board do not have any effect on your faders in Logic. The only thing that has an effect on Logic is this right here, and that's your gain stage. Now, this is an M32, but it's the same on an X32. So once you do that, you then have this really cool tool where you can have your own effects and your own reverb. And let's say your drums are really loud in the room. So if you have your mixer up, maybe somebody goes, wow, the drums are really loud in the room. And so they may turn the drums down on the mixer in front of house like this. They may pull them down because a lot of sound is bleeding through the room. But then keyboards don't make any sound at all. So then they may take the keyboards and crank them up like that. But in the live stream, now you've got really loud keyboards on your TV and really low drums. And that's why you have a virtual mixer through Logic running effects, EQ, everything, and 1,000% more powerful than the X32 or the M32. And you're just building your mix, which I always try to save. Like, I mean, really, you have drums. How often are the drums going to change? Maybe a player changes, maybe a player hits the snare drum a little harder. All you have to do is come in, grab that snare drum and pull it down. And remember, most of your kit is enjoyed by the overheads, so you can always have the overheads up as well. But this is basically you just babysitting the mix that I've set up as a template for you. And then every week you come in, you open Logic, you go to most recent, you go to live stream templates, you open up live stream template, close what you have, don't save it, don't record either during church because it just uses up all your hard drive space on a computer. And these are being written as WAV files. So each file is like 34 megabytes. You'll blow through your hard drive in a week or two, or in a month or two, depending on that. But the cool thing about that is if you just record, enable it, and input monitor it, you then get to hear the whole mix coming through all of those effects being available to you. But what you would do first is come in and then you would just save as, not save, and you would just put in today's date. Like you would put in 6/7/26 live stream. And then you could always review that file for a week. But you don't really need it because we're not going to record anything on it. We're just going to listen through Logic. And I put what I call hot corners on so I can take my mouse and slide it up there and then quickly grab this, or slide it back up there and quickly grab this. If I open another window, I don't like to, there's two options. It says open mixer, but then you can also open a mix window. I like to open a mixer in its own window. And then I just throw my mouse up here to the top corner and I can look at the details of a track. I can come here and look at my mixer. I can go over here and look at the internet, or if I'm playing the live stream back, I can do something like that just by enabling those hot corners. And I've done that for both Compass and for Quest. If you have any questions, text me. This video is 18 minutes long, so I'm going to stop. Thanks, guys.